Hi everyone, I'm David Kelly, Program Director for the eLearning Guild, and I'd like to welcome you to another Twist Conversation. Today I'm pleased to be welcoming Karen Hyder and Mel Chambers, and we're going to be discussing virtual instruction and how it relates to training. Welcome, guys.
Hi, David. How are you?
I'm doing well. Why don't we take a moment before we get started with our conversation and take a moment and introduce yourselves to the viewers.
Sure, I'm Karen Hyder. I've been doing online events for nearly 15 years, and many years I've spent online with the eLearning Guild online forums, as well as our Thought Leader webinars and Demo Fest webinars, etc. So I spent many thousands of hours in online events, and I really enjoy doing it and teaching people about how to do it.
Mel?
Great, thanks David for having me here today. So I'm Mel Chambers. I've been doing online instructional design and events for over a decade now, probably since about 2001. I too work with the eLearning Guild and helping with the online forums, behind the scenes producing. Like Karen, I've produced thousands of hours of online events, and background is instructional design for online learning. So I work with a lot of different clients trying to adapt their current classroom designs into virtual.
And that's a great segue to the first question that I wanted to start with you guys on. Is a lot of people start in the classroom as trainers, and then they go into some sort of a technology-based thing, whether it be e-learning, traditional e-learning, or virtual instruction. But one of the mistakes that is often made is that people just start using the technology without taking into account what's different about it. And I like the fact that the workshop that you guys are going to be doing is going to be talking about adapting your traditional classroom design for the virtual world. So the first question I want to start, and Karen, I'll start this question with you, is if I'm just getting started with virtual instructions, what are some of the things that I need to be thinking about that is unique to the virtual world that I need to take into account when I'm adapting my design for that environment?
Yeah, I mean, so many things are different that it's a lot to cover, all the details, and we certainly will talk about that in the course. But I really want to talk about what's the same. And the same is that learners often benefit from leadership and facilitation from a leader. And so when we're online together, it's helpful to make the best of those connections. The working with a leader and having somebody facilitate a conversation or facilitate activities, getting participants to work together, so we can really make the most of being together in a session online. And so all the other things kind of fade into the background when you start to think about how do you talk to each other? How do you show things to each other? How do you prove that you've learned? And that's the more challenging part. But if we can focus on the things that we do well online, and that is connect, then we can go from there.
So one of the other aspects that when I start speaking to people about virtual instruction, one of the first barriers that I hit in that initial discussion with someone who's new to this is this idea of, yeah, we want to do webinars, where there's this idea that that's what virtual instruction is. And I know when you guys do the work that you do, you take it beyond that. There's nothing wrong with webinars. Webinars are great for what they are, but virtual instruction can be a lot more than that, and very engaging, as you've been describing. So Mel, I'll pose this question to you. How do you see virtual instruction being different than what the template is for what most people expect from a webinar?
Yeah, it's a great question, David. I hear that a lot, and I cringe a lot when I'm going to go to that webinar, and I'll go, oh gosh, it's not a webinar. To me, webinar means informational. And like you said, webinars are wonderful. Webinar is someplace where it's usually one way. The person that's presenting is pushing information. Typically on a webinar, you might see hundreds of people, 1,000 people, so you can't really have the type of engagement that you would have in a virtual instruction. You might be able to ask some questions, but you can't be monitoring 1,000 people typing into chat. So that's why, for me, webinars are usually informational in one way. Virtual instruction is just that. It's facilitation. So you're facilitating instruction. You're using these really wonderful tools that we have right now, because there's a lot of great tools out there where you can do just about anything that you can do in a classroom, you can do in a virtual classroom as well, with breakouts, with discussions, with round robins. And really the biggest difference is that you can have that, engagement versus in a webinar, when you're pushing in a webinar. And in virtual instruction, you're having that two-way. And if you have a really well-designed virtual class, then you're really not doing a lot of pushing. You're actually getting the participants to engage with each other and learn from each other. So really, webinar push, informational, they're great. Virtual instruction, think of it, it's a classroom, and it's a lot more engagement and a collaboration.
Excellent. Now, when I hear you say that, I've heard a number of classroom trainers, and I've seen this happen a lot, where they think, oh, well, it's an online environment, I'm going to do what I do in the classroom, and they don't realize that it's a different skill set. Even though it's a similar environment, you want to mirror a lot of the good stuff that you do in a classroom in an online environment. Making that happen is a different skill set. And I've seen a number of classroom trainers who are great think that they can just walk into an online environment and do what they do, and then they discover in hindsight that it's a colossal failure, that you need to prepare, and there's a different level of skill set required to happen. So Karen, can you talk a little bit about what sort of skills are needed to start making that transition from leading a face-to-face classroom to taking that and being effective in an online environment for virtual instruction? Oh, Karen, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. And David, when you see those people, please send them to me, because I would love to influence them. And I have. I mean, over the years, I've definitely helped a lot of people overcome that threshold. And part of it is some of us became trainers because of our personalities. You know, you were okay in front of an audience, you were okay just explaining things to people, and so you grew into this job that was a trainer's job on your language skills, your communication skills, your customer service skills, your gregarious personality, your ability to stand in front of a room full of people. You go online, and I can't tell how gregarious you are, and I can't read your body language, and there's so many elements missing that I would say a natural trainer or a unconscious competent might experience. So what we need to do is really think in terms of conscious competence. What does it take to be good online? How do we make use of the resources that are available to us in the online environment? What's going to be missing that we need to accommodate in some other way? So for instance, I really don't like wide open chat conference calls, because I think people tend to cut each other off and you talk over each other, and there's a whole lot of what and could you repeat that going on. So I prefer people type in chat, and if I have 100 people or 1,000 people typing in chat, I'm okay with that. But if I have 100 people talking at once, that's not going to work. So I need to really rethink what is acceptable and what is it that I want to have happen, and then facilitate the use of the tools so the participants do those things.
Excellent. And I know that this is something that you guys are going to be taking a deep dive into at the Learning Solutions Conference this year in a workshop that's going to be going on before the conference begins. So if I'm going to be attending the conference and I want to make this transition to go from traditional classroom training and learn how to do virtual instruction right, I'm going to attend your workshop. Can you give me an idea what my experience is going to be like if I spend the day with you learning how to do this? Mel, can you give me an idea of what the workshop's going to look like?
Well, the workshop's going to be fun, David. Karen and I, we've been doing these workshops together for several years now, and with much success, and we like to make them very engaging. So you're not going to hear a lot of push from us. We're going to actually get you immersed in an online environment, even though it's a blended, even though you're there live, face-to-face, we're going to get you immersed right away, have you start using the tool. It's a great workshop whether you're brand new and you're a novice or you have a little bit of experience. We make sure that we cover the range across the board. And from the get-go, you're going to learn the nuts and bolts from the analysis that you need to do, and not everything is made to be virtual, all the way to what it takes to actually prep those instructors that we were talking, particularly ones that maybe were classroom and they're a little bit scared now going virtual, to what it really takes to produce an event as well. So again, it's the ABCs, the nuts and bolts. We're going to have you work on courses that we're going to provide. So we're going to take you step by step all the way through the day, and then you can also work on your own courses. So, and with that, we also give you a wealth of tools to walk away from, or walk away with rather, such as storyboards that you can use. We get a lot of questions about, okay, this is really great, but how can I go and convince my management that this is the way to go? We're going to give you those tools as well, so you can go back and have those conversations with all the people that are going to be involved. So we're going to help you whether you're a one-man shop or if you need to go back to a really large organization and make this happen. And along the way, it's going to be, the day is going to go really quickly because we're going to have you engaged and going and working from the moment you get there.
Excellent. And I know you mentioned that you guys have done workshops for us in the past. They're always very, very well received. People who are coming and learning how to do virtual instructions always give us great feedback. So we're really thrilled to be having you guys on the workshop program again this year.
Thanks, David. We're happy to be here too.
Excellent. Well, if you want to learn more about the workshop that we're talking about, or virtual instruction, how to do it, or any of the workshops that are taking place at the Learning Solutions Conference this year, do visit our website, learningsolutions15.com. The Learning Solutions Conference and Expo is taking place March 25th through 27th, with workshops taking place on the 23rd through the 23rd and 24th. And if you want to learn more, go to learningsolutions15.com. One point I do want to make out: if you happen to get the Learning Solutions brochure and you open it up and you don't see the workshop that we're talking about now, that's okay. This is actually a workshop that we added after we went to press on the brochure, because we had the opportunity to do so, and it's always such a great performer. So if you see it, don't see it in the workshop, don't be alarmed. It is on our website, learningsolutions15.com, and we're really excited to be able to have that as part of the program this year. So Karen, Mel, thank you so much for spending some time this afternoon talking to me about virtual instruction.
Thanks so much, David.
And I want to thank you for watching this video. We'll see you next time on Twist Conversations or at Learning Solutions this March in Orlando. Take care, everybody.